We're on.
Good.
Go ahead.
Good evening. Today is October 6th, 2015, and the Milford Planning Board is now in session. Minutes of the previous
Make
meeting.
a motion, Leo.
A motion made by Babe, seconded by John. All in favor?
As amended as.
Yeah, it was amended.
As amended.
As amended.
As amended, I'm sorry. Motion made by Babe, seconded by John. All in favor?
Yes.
Unanimous. Okay, 81 Ps, there are none.
And you got a public hearing.
You have a public hearing.
Hearing.
We do, yeah,
7:01.
7:01. We have a
Perfect
public hearing. All right,
On
Karen?
Tuesday, October 6, 2015, in Room 3 of Milford Town Hall, 52 Main Street, the Milford Planning Board will, at the times designated, conduct public hearings regarding the following: application of the Planning Board to amend Section 3.9.2, sign size restrictions of the zoning bylaw to provide for signs within the OR Office Residential and the BP Business Park zoning districts. The full application and/or maps of the above items are available for public inspection Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Office of Planning and Engineering, Town Hall, 52 Main Street, Milford, Mass. Interested parties may express their views at the above scheduled hearing.
Okay. The proposed amendment does virtually exactly what the legal notice says. It makes sure that the sign regulations cover signs in both the OR, Office Residential, and the BP Business Park zoning districts. During the course of adopting the changes that actually created those two zoning districts, we somehow managed to overlook the fact that we needed to add language in the sign section to allow for signs in those zones. So over the years, we hadn't had any applications, and nothing brought it to fore until recently. But once we noticed it, I brought it to the board, and then we started this process. So the actual text of the article is attached in your packet, and it just adds the OR district designation in section 392.1, and it adds the BP letters for business park districts in sections 392.2 and 392.3. So now the same regulations that would apply either to the residential zones for OR or the commercial zones and industrial zones for BP would now apply once town meeting adopts this. So I'd recommend that you forward a recommended adoption by town meeting, a special town meeting.
All right, this is in October? Is this coming?
No.
Huh?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
the special.
This would be the
Yeah.
special.
Yep.
All right. This is a public hearing. Is anyone out in the audience that want to speak to this? Hearing none. What about anyone here on the committee? Hearing none, do I?
A motion to close the public hearing and send a favorable.
Motion made by Pat to close the public hearing and send a favorable recommendation.
I'll second.
It's seconded by John. All in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you. Moving right along.
Moving right along.
Number 3.
Okay. Number 3, endorse site plan, Mylar, 400 East Main Street, Free Building Corporation Incorporated. So,
I'd ask Bob to come because your approval last time had several conditions that would have required changes to the Mylar, otherwise you'd have been able to sign the Mylar last time. So Bob's made all those, and I asked him if he could just go through those with the prints on the board. I have the Mylars here, so
Okay.
you can sign them after
All right.
you vote. Sign them
All right.
after the meeting.
Okay, so I think there were like 5 or 6 items that needed to be addressed. The first one was that the wall plan needed to be stamped by the design engineer, and we have provided stamped plans of the wall design for both shoots.
okay.
And I have reduced copies if anybody would like to see them or have them. The other one was with regarding a potential storage tank near the artesian well, and we show a location near the well I also have added a note to the plan stating that water for yard sprinkler system and truck wash area to be supplied by on-site artesian well. A holding tank shall be installed if it is determined the recovery rate of the well is not sufficient for the proposed use. So we've added that to the plan. Another issue was we wanted to show the signs for the truck warning signs as requested at the locations requested by Mass DOT, and we've shown them there on the plans. They wanted them 175 feet in either direction of the access point. So those have been added to the plan.
Truck entering, Bob? Is that what those are?
They're actually truck entering and then also like a
Truck go up.
truck,
going over.
yeah, yeah. And then, and so we've also added a note here stating that those signs to be installed. We wanted to show a truck wash station. I wasn't familiar with how that should work. I contacted one of the company that I believe is going to operate this plant and asked them, I sent them a plan and asked them where the best location would be. And during that process, they basically told me that I had the traffic flow backwards on the plan where I had the trucks coming up like this, coming through the plant and leaving. He said the trucks would come in this way and come through the plant this way. And he said normally they would use the lagoons for truck washing. They're the concrete trucks, but in discussion with Babe, the concern was also the trucks that come onto the gravel area here to bring materials. So what we did was we put the truck wash station here so that the water could be contained and directed into lagoons and then go through their recycling process and reused. And we also have a note here stating that all delivery trucks shall leave the site so as to drive through the truck wash station. So they'll be directed on site that, once they leave here, they gotta leave, come up around the plant, go through the station, and
And then out that one.
I think that was everything. Pretty sure that was all that we had left to deal with. Either by adding to the plan or adding notes, and in some cases, both. I believe we've addressed all the issues that were left.
Right. Go ahead.
You put a note there about only the washing.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, yes. It also says here, water, the proposed truck wash station shall not be employed during winter months. So we have a note on that as well, yes.
Okay,
That was the other one.
looks all right to me.
It should be ready.
Joe, you all set? Everybody all set? All right.
Make a motion, we sign the plans.
Motion made by Babe, seconded by Joe,
Yeah.
to sign the plan. All in favor? Unanimous.
We can just do it
You
after.
want to do it afterwards? Yeah.
Because you
Oh, yeah.
got several other things here.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Number 4, amended site plan review, 340 East Main Street, solar energy.
Select energy.
Oh, Select Energy, sorry.
The,
Dear, I just wanted to read the letters here. Okay? Dear Madam Chairman, the applicant requests amended site plan to approve and install a roof-mounted large-scale solar energy system on the existing building at the subject property. Large-scale solar energy systems are permitted use in the IB district via site plan review and further subject to be requirements of section 3.15 of the zoning bylaw. The proposed installation will be entirely on the roof, with any other auxiliary equipment be located either inside the building, the adjacent to the existing transformer. No other outdoor changes are being proposed on the property. The proposal appears to meet all applicable provisions of the zoning bylaw, and so our town planner has reviewed it, and the application is required, therefore he recommends approval of the site. Also, Vonnie, our engineer, also is also has no additional, John Erickson has no concerns. The fire department has requested no changes. Sewer was favorable, the water company is favorable, and, the, disability on handicap. Okay, you're good.
I think it's easy if you just flip this page.
I think so. Where's he going?
Well-
Where you going?
he was good. I thought he was.
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't mean that. I'm sorry. You gotta make your presentation.
Normally,
I'm good, you're,
normally, people-
sorry about that.
normally
Misunderstanding.
applicants have a full-size plan that you can actually see.
I was told that they had provided plans for everybody in the,
We have some, we can see it,
On
yeah.
that page,
We have it
because that's the
here.
only one you're gonna
typically,
be able to see.
the next size up is the 11 by 17 that we typically use. It's,
All right,
like
you wanna make a presentation?
I was told that there was some question about making sure that we left egress to, walkways and not blocking parking lots. We have some pictures of where the,
No,
They have all that.
let me just help you out for a second.
Yep.
What are you doing?
We're just putting a PV array up on the flat roof at Sky Buffet.
Okay. You're not occupying any of the parking spots upon completion. Obviously during construction, that's a different discussion.
No impediment to the egress.
Not gonna reduce any
walkways.
parking spots, everything is controlled and mounted on the roof
Yes,
or inside the building.
yes.
Okay,
I think that was the gist of what we were looking for,
Okay.
just to help out, because I see you have another one, so I'm just
I
gonna
do.
help you.
Oh, thank
This
you.
one time, so the next time you know how to
Okay.
give.
All right.
all right, so I get what, I understand what he's doing on this Sky. That's the Chinese Sky
The buffet place. yes.
buffet
Yep,
place,
yep.
okay. All right, does anyone else have a question?
Are these visible from the ground, or is there a parapet around that building?
There is parapet, and they're gonna be laid flat on the roof, so they wouldn't be visible even if there wasn't.
No, that's it. That's all I have.
Make a motion.
Second.
Motion made by Joe, seconded by Pat to approve the site plan. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. All right, that's on four. Okay, amended site plan review, One Countryside Drive, Countryside Healthcare. The applicant requests amended site plan approval to extend an existing parking lot to the subject property. The existing parking lots located on the westerly side of Countryside Drive will be expanded to accommodate a total of 121 off-street parking spaces. Currently, the northerly lot contains 27 parking spaces, and the southerly lot contains 32 spaces, but there is no connection between the two lots. With the proposed plan, in addition to the increase in number of parking spaces, a connecting drive is being installed between the north and the south parking areas. I have reviewed the site plan and find all the applicable zoning requirements appear to be met, therefore I recommend the site plan be approved to subject of comments. Larry Duncan, our town planner. The Milford Water Company has reviewed it, and they're okay with that. And the Commission on Disability, he has a list. Did you see the list that he has? Yeah.
Basically had one item, really.
Excuse me?
Yeah, it's
Basically
only
had one item.
Yeah.
One item, okay. And I think that's about it. Okay.
Bonnie had a letter as well. You have her.
It's not in
No,
here, that's
she
what I
had
was
no
wondering.
comments.
She had no comments.
Well, so I just got a letter today.
I'm
that,
sorry?
She had initially sent some comments informally to Bob. He addressed them all, and she sent me a letter today
Okay.
that
Dear Ms.
she,
McCarthy, I've reviewed the amended site plan submittal, One Countryside. I've discussed some minor concerns with the design engineer. I have no additional comments. Okay, so you talked with her, and it worked out for you?
Everything was
It worked out
resolved,
well?
yes.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the existing Countryside Drive. This is the existing nursing home. And across the street, currently, there are two isolated parking lots. There's no berm, there's no curbing around them. They just run off just sheet flows off-site onto the area that the town uses for its composting, dumping area,
I know the
leaves, and,
area,
you know,
yeah.
so. And currently there's an existing drain line that runs through the parking lot and just discharges into a flared end. If you can see topographically, what eventually happens is that runoff comes here, kind of hits this, makes a little swale, comes around, flows through this area, and eventually works its way to this wetland that's off-site on town property. So the proposal is to expand the parking area, to expand the pavement, put curbing around it to be able to control the runoff. In both these locations, connect the two via a drive aisle here. Install catch basins, reroute this drain line so that it now, because we originally looking at just extending it and letting it dump, and then it would pretty much just dump into this flat area and not really find its way to the swale and get into the wetlands the way we would prefer to do. So we've rerouted this drain line, put a manhole here, brought it in this direction here with some riprap at the outlet, and it's gonna run right into this swale right here, and eventually flow into this without really flowing onto the property of the town that's been cleared. This area that you see here is an area that it's been cleared by the town, and their process here is kind of overflowed into this corner of the property. We're proposing a stormwater management basin, sediment forebay with outlets to meet the stormwater requirements. We're attenuating the TSS removal and peak runoffs for the 2, 10, and 100-year storm events. We're showing the 100-foot buffer, we're showing erosion control. And that's pretty much it, just a parking lot.
Why aren't you just putting the drain right to your on-site?
What are you talking about? This?
Yeah,
'Cause this is from the roof of this building here.
I we're
Well, you know how big we're
not.
not.
Just hold on one second, because you have a tendency sometimes just, I ask a question, you just,
Okay, what was your question?
I understand that the town owns the property presently, abutting.
Yeah.
But in the future, if they were to sell it, it just doesn't seem appropriate that,
All I'm talking about is, you gotta understand that right now, there is this whole particular process here has been developed over the years with no stormwater management
which is
situations
foolish,
at
but
all.
it is what it is, I get
So,
that.
so to try to address that now and put this runoff from this rooftop and these parking areas here and size of the basin that's gonna be big enough, we wouldn't be able to fit it on this property. We're trying to just address what we're doing here, you know, and just take care of this impervious area that's being proposed and
I get what you're
being
trying to
added.
address, but it doesn't,
From an environmental permitting standpoint, that separates the drainage from the existing facility from the parking lot drainage, and then he can handle all the new drainage from the entire combined reconstructed parking lot on
you make it sound
that
like, you
site.
make it sound like they have 14 acres worth of parking, which they don't, so let's not pretend like there's a huge, I understand that the parking, he's going to address the parking, I get that.
Right, but on that parcel. But the other parcel, you can't, there's too much volume to address
just
that
seemed-
drainage on this one small parcel.
Here again,
I understand, but fundamentally, it just seems foolish that it's okay just to dump
well,
onto property that, just because presently it's owned by the town of Milford, it just seems foolish and short-sighted, I don't,
but it's not new, it's an existing situation. This is an existing condition that currently occurs.
I understand that.
And
but it just-
we've done two major additions onto this building, and that would have been the time to try to address that, so that we could have done something on this property, and there was never a need for it. It was not seen to be a need for it in addressing these two major additions that we've done to this building across the street
It just
in
seems,
previous things. So I didn't believe there was a need for it at this stage for just this parking lot. So I just looked at this particular parcel, it's a separate parcel, it's got its own area, it's got its own assessor reference, separated from this by the road, and I addressed it as a single entity, a separate parcel.
I hear you. I don't see it the same way, though.
Yeah, Joe,
I'm all set.
you're all set?
And I'll say,
You're all set?
yeah,
I'm looking, yeah, I was just gonna ask,
sorry.
just one more question. I just want a question about where the town dumps its leaves. And that is at the bottom there?
It's all in here.
It's all
and
in there.
then
Oh.
In this direction. The
Okay.
Hill Street is right here.
Okay.
Comes right down around, and it comes right in here.
All right, that's the compost here.
Yes.
All right, do I hear a
I
motion?
move we approve the amended site plan.
Moved by John to approve the amended site
Oh,
plan,
wait,
second by,
One question you didn't answer, though, actually. Did you address the Commission on
Oh,
Disabilities?
sorry, yes, we added an additional handicap space in the, we just, all we had to do was restripe, and we were able to actually get additional space in there without any problem.
Yep, thank you.
so there's a motion on the floor made by Babe, second by,
I made the motion.
John made the motion. Second by Babe. All in favor? Opposed?
Me.
4 in favor, 1 opposed.
Yep.
You're opposed? Yeah,
I think it's,
that's all right.
I think you're gambling with a problem that will happen probably in 40 decades, and I'm not gonna be here to see it, but
Right. Neither
We'll
will I.
call you.
don't bother calling me, because I won't remember why I have
What
opposed.
is gonna be good for the compost on the roof?
Today, yes, but eventually, you know,
You can't sell the leaf dump every time we have, somebody wants to make a dollar, you know.
listen, babe,
You gotta have
Dave,
some.
I've lived in this town a long time, you a lot longer. They've done a lot of things that I don't think, I
Well, I
would have never
mean-
thought they'd do. However, stranger things have occurred,
Up
that's
by
all I'm
you,
saying.
up by you, they sold the leaf dump up there.
Like I said, stranger things have occurred,
All
that's
right,
all I'm gonna
gentlemen,
say.
moving on. Number 6, amended site plan review, 10 Commercial Way, Select Energy.
Madam Chairman, please note my abstention on this one.
Okay. Note that abstention, Karen. Okay, the applicant requests amended site plan approval to install a roof-mounted large-scale solar energy system on the existing building in the subject property. Large-scale solar energy system is permitted in the IB district via site plan review and further subject to the requirements of the 3.15 zoning laws. All proposed installation will be entirely on the roof and with any other auxiliary equipment will be located either inside the building adjacent to the existing transformer, and no other outdoor changes are being proposed. And I have reviewed the site plan and find that all application zoning requirements appear to be met. I recommend approval of the amended site plan and subject to relevant all agency comments. Larry Duncan, our town planner. Bonnie Reese, I have reviewed the submittal top roof, and I have no additional comments. The water company has reviewed the plan and has no comments, no other comment, and that's it. All right.
So this one will be visible from the street. There won't be anything that would block any current parking or walkways or anything.
Okay,
A little more straightforward than the other one.
just a simple, straightforward one. All right,
It's on the south-facing pitch of the roof, but it's flat on the roof, as I understand it.
Say that it's flat roof, you say?
It's flat to the roof, but it's a pitched roof.
It will be, yes. Yeah, it's a pitch roof. We're mounted right to the corrugated metal on the roof there.
Well, this one doesn't have one.
Did we get your name?
Peter Warren from Select Energy,
Make a motion that we
RREN.
approve this amended site plan.
motion made by Babe to approve the amended site plan,
Second.
second by Joe, all in favor?
Aye.
4 in favor, 1 abstention.
Do I need to get any signatures or anything tonight, or is that for tomorrow?
Yeah.
I'll have to look and see what we've got in the file. We may have to initial something later. Yep.
We're good, you're all set, you may leave, thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Okay, ZBA special permit referral, 160 Beaver Street, Precision Motorsports. Dear Madam Chairman, the applicant is requesting a special permit to allow for an addition of a paint booth on subject property. The zoning bylaw provides for such auto-related uses by special permits from the ZBA. The proposal is to convert existing interior space for use as a paint booth in conjunction with the existing use. Precision Motorsports manufactures body parts for custom cars. The paint booth conversion will be accomplished by internal alterations only, and there are no additions being proposed to the building. All applicant zoning requirements appear to be met. Therefore, I recommend a favorable report to be forwarded to the zoning board of appeals. All right,
Okay, so first I want to tell you that none of this is proposed, even though they're later proposed, so everything is existing, so.
They want to change that before you get to the
Yeah,
ZBA.
he's going Thursday night to the ZBA, so.
whereabouts is that on?
Steve
Beaver
you know Steve Gallagher's masonry, his
Yes.
particular property up
That was in the
there?
Bellingham.
Street? Okay, I know
That's where that is.
Okay,
That's why I
I know where
attached
you're
a map.
talking.
and you-
All right.
Make a motion for favorable to the ZBA.
Okay, motion made by Pat, it's favorable to the ZBA, do I hear a second?
Oh, I know.
I'll second.
Second by
Oh,
Babe,
no, go ahead, John, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
second by Babe, all in favor?
I'll be short.
Any opposed? Unanimous.
And John made me this nice little handout that I was supposed to read to you, and he didn't even let me do it.
Well,
All right, that's
I
it.
didn't think, I applaud the gentleman who comes in and asks
Bill 'em
legally
anyway.
to have a paint booth. I applaud him.
I know,
Okay.
Moving right along.
Moving right along,
Never get that by him, Bob, I hate to tell you. Chris
was
Glass,
wondering
you're
which
never gonna
one
get
you
it by him.
ZBA special permit referral to Joe's Ways,
Quick question, though.
Joseph Cunningham.
Bedroom or dining room?
It's a bedroom, yeah, I was gonna write that out.
Dear Madam Chairman,
didn't know
the
if it
applicant
was
is
Sarah.
requesting a special permit to allow the addition of a supplemental apartment on the subject property. The zoning bylaw provides the supplemental apartments by special permit from the ZBA. The proposal is to construct an 18 by 32 addition to the house of a three-room supplemental apartment. All applicable zoning requirements appear to be met. Therefore, I recommend favorable report forward to the zoning Board of Appeals. Okay, you want to state your name?
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Suzette Ferreira, and I represent the applicant, Joe and Corinne Cunningham of 2 Joe's Way. Unfortunately, they couldn't be here with me tonight. As Madam Chairwoman read, my clients are looking to add an in-law apartment to their existing house on Joe's Way. The reason for that is Corinne's parents are downsizing. They've recently sold their house. They want to move in. The Cunninghams have 4 small children, ages 8, 6, 4, and 2. And unfortunately, Corinne's mother's actually not in the best of health either. So they want to be able to have her living with them in the
Sure.
house so that she may be able to take care of her when she needs to. But for now, they'll help each other with the kids and things of that nature. So in looking at the bylaw, it looks as though this type of in-law apartment is what the bylaw was set up for, is to have a
Yes, it
family
was.
member to live in the unit. They're not proposing more than 2 rooms. It's 1 bedroom. There was a typo on the plan. It's a bedroom with a open kitchen, sitting area, and a full bathroom. There will be an entrance from the main house in the formal living room into the in-law apartment, and then there'll also be a separate entrance on the side of the house here. As
Right.
you can see, it's consistent with the look of the house. We're
It'll
not
look nice,
changing it at
right.
all. So we're asking that the board provide a favorable recommendation to the ZBA.
No problem with that.
Motion.
Motion made by Pat to send, what?
The only thing is, Pat, I like, one of the things I always say with these, that should be put on the deed.
Should be on the deed, that's exactly what it is, but
Should be-
according to Larry, you can't. I'm with you, but I you know, I get myself in enough trouble on my own, so I'm gonna,
Okay.
listen, I'll make the motion favorable with the caveat that it needs to be recorded at the registry of, Worcester County Registry of Deeds, that it's an in-law apartment.
And,
well, the special permit will be, once they
yeah,
grant it.
but part of the special permit would be the special permit is taken away at.
Yeah, it's not a rental unit, it doesn't turn into a rental unit, that's what we're trying to avoid.
Right.
Right.
I don't know how you phrase that.
I have one of those. I have an apartment downstairs my mother lived in. She's not there, I can't do anything with it.
No, but you're, I don't mean to be fresh, but you clearly, you know the laws, you're not looking to have tenants in your home.
You're not gonna get them when they're doing it, the only time you're gonna
When
get them.
you sell it.
Is when you sell it, at least if you sell it, because the real estate agents are selling them is.
Is it two-family?
2 families, and
And that's what we're trying to avoid, it's a single-family home.
so, yeah.
Well, the ZBA would have to do it if they could do it, but I don't think they can do it, so.
Well, that's how we're gonna
They
make the
do everything
motion.
to us, why can't
Larry,
they do it to
yeah,
the
I mean,
courts?
that's never stopped them before.
Well,
Motion still stands.
The motion
Favorable,
stands.
with the understanding that it,
A special permit,
Motion made by Pat to send,
roads when the house is sold.
all right. How do you want that to be phrased, Pat?
I'm not 100%, that's why I'm
okay.
I'm fighting with it.
I think it was supposed to, but I don't know.
The special permit,
Special permit just per applicant, though? So if they were to sell the house, it wouldn't
Yeah.
automatically.
we want to record it in such a fashion that if they whenever they were to sell it, a realtor couldn't come in and suggest that it's a
special,
two-family.
special permit goes with the applicant.
But if it was
Okay,
recorded,
all right, that's it.
But that's how the ZBA does it.
So the special permit,
Jeez.
Pat's made a motion with the special permit goes with the applicant
Only.
only.
Right.
there you go.
I think it does
Okay.
anyhow.
Nah,
No,
sometimes it goes to the property.
the applicant only,
Mine
and
goes with me.
who
Is there a
seconded
second?
that? Do I have a second?
It depends on
Seconded
the
by Babe. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Okay, Suzette. Wish my kids lived close so I could do that.
What are you gonna do, convert the garage?
Want to adopt
Hey,
me,
don't
huh?
knock it. I know one guy that did fix over the garage.
Yeah.
All right. Number 9, ZBA variance referral, 1
Madam-
Mystic Lane, Jennifer
Madam
Dick.
Chairperson, I would like to recuse myself from this,
All right.
We're gonna note your abstention.
Actually, there's two of us.
I want you, 2 of you with, what? Both of you?
There's two, yeah.
Did you note that?
Oh, boy, this could be dangerous.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
Be
Oh,
unanimous?
boy.
it's
Dear
just a-
Madam Chairman,
Just a
Unanimous of
referral.
three?
the applicant is requesting a special permit to
What's it worth?
allow a 10 by 15 addition to the existing dwelling on the subject property to be 0.5 feet from the side south property line, 10 feet minimum setback required. The proposal is to construct an addition of the existing foundation, which consists of a retaining wall located 0.5 feet from the side property line. The wall from the ground level on the adjacent property is approximately 8 feet in height at its highest point. The proposed addition will create an additional vertical extension virtually on the property line. This is an adequate area on the property to build a much larger addition on the north side of the house. The existence of the retaining wall does not constitute a hardship. Therefore, I recommend an unfavorable report to be forwarded to the Zoning Board of Appeals. All right.
The
So Larry,
most telling attachment, because the plans were attached and an aerial was attached, would be the last page.
What?
Would be the last page. Actually, the last 2 pages are prints from Google Maps that show this property looking across the adjacent property from the south. In the last page, you can clearly see that you got at least an 8-foot grade change from the property to
Oh,
the
madam.
south up to where this new addition will start. So now, the adjacent property won't only have to continue looking at a 8-foot high concrete wall.
No problem.
It'll
I'll make
have
this
a
easy,
building on
Larry.
top.
I'll make a motion for unfavorable.
oh, yeah, that sets a precedent.
Yeah, that's bad.
Wait a minute, Bob's here, he's gotta earn his
And there's-
dollars.
and there's-
Let him
Okay.
at least
And
explain
there's
what's
plenty of
going
room
on.
on the other side to build.
Well,
Oh, Bob,
Everything
forgive
that
me.
Larry said is correct. The
that sets a precedent.
the only positive spin you can put on this is that there's an existing concrete pad here, and that by developing the addition in this location, you would not increase the amount of impervious area on the lot by putting the addition on the opposite side.
That's a great argument, Bob. I'm
The
sticking.
only one I could have.
I'm sticking with unfavorable,
Okay, and we have a motion on the board.
but thank you.
Pat wants to send an
I'll
unfavorable.
second the unfavorable.
Second,
There's only 3 of
there's
us.
the 3 of us. 3 in favor, 2 abstentions.
Unanimous of 3. That's really what it is.
All right,
All right, can I ask a few questions about the, Sure. Can I ask a few questions about the sign?
okay, now we're gonna continue our discussion on the signed sections of the bylaw. So, I just want to make, I just want to talk about the fact that on last Monday night, Larry and John Erickson, Jerry Moody, Joe Calgione, and myself were in front of the Board of Selectmen to talk about this particular, the sign bylaw. There was a lot of conversation about it, and we're back to the drawing board, so to speak. For a little conversation with you, Patrick, is they did talk about the balloons. So,
Well, but what,
Were they for the balloons or against the balloons?
well, just to clarify, what they were discussing was how to deal with portable signs on town property between now and the time the new bylaw can be adopted as well. So we're not exactly back to square one. We're continuing our review, and they realize that that's the case. It's going to be several months before.
And Larry, and I certainly appreciate that, and this is what I'm trying to figure out.
yeah.
Are we trying to correct something? Are we trying to make something better? Or are we trying to do this for enforcement? I'm trying to understand what it is that, where we're heading with this. And just
Go ahead.
let my little ramblings go for a couple of minutes.
All right, go
And then
ahead.
you could understand. I'm confused in terms of, are we trying to prohibit, obviously not real estate signs, but people who have work performed at their home, i.e. a remodeling, a driveway,
Right.
a landscaping? Are we trying to prohibit that? Are we trying, understand where I'm going with this?
I do.
Or are we trying to just time,
Control
are we trying to time it, meaning
Control.
it can only be there for,
Yes.
Right.
but we have to take a basis of understanding that we have to somewhat make this somewhat simple, because every time we go to town meeting, it only takes one or two to get up and say, oh, they're trying to do this, and it all gets defeated. So I want to take, look, as far as I'm concerned,
Wait, wait.
if you want to take and suggest that work being performed at your house, a contractor sign or alike, can be erected for no more than, 40 days, 20 days, whatever you want to do, I'm okay with that. If we're trying to prohibit, people from putting, I don't know, that they have a car for sale in their front yard, I'm not necessarily for that. That's, you know what I'm saying? If we're trying to prohibit businesses for advertising, that they're going to be having, that they're looking, that they're have employment opportunities, I'm not okay with prohibiting that. So I'm just trying to figure out where we're going with this. To that point, as you drive around, and I go by Tank Field every night, I see that there's at least 3 or 4 signs advertising youth signups.
Yeah.
Are we trying to prohibit that? Or are we trying to be selective and say you can only do it if you're Milford? But, I mean, again, most of these are for business. I'm just, like I said, let me rant for a moment.
I understand what you're saying.
Again,
Okay,
I just want to know
get it.
where we're trying to end up. And then to that point, that I know that there's a lot of youth sports in the town that, as part of their fundraising efforts, they erect, canvas signs at the fields.
But the thing with that is, they never take them down. They
But
end
this
up
is why
in the
I-
bad weather in somebody else's lawn, and this
I
seems to be
think,
the
I
problem.
think at Rosenfeld, I think at the town park, that they do actually what I would consider seasonal signs. But if you want to, again, if you want to make them, a separate category, seasonal signs that can't be, that have to be down within 3 months. Again, I just want to know where we're heading with this, because it gets very confusing.
It
It
is.
only takes 1 or 2 to get up, and we're gonna end up with nothing, and I'm tired of
Why don't,
bashing things back and forth just so we end up with
Well,
nothing.
Larry has something to say.
Well, the
Thank you for
reason,
my rant.
the reason I didn't get into any of the details at the last meeting was to try and clarify that we weren't initially getting at any one of those issues that you brought up specifically. What the whole basis for this change, proposed amendment, is to make the bylaw constitutional. You can't regulate signs at all based on what they say. So when you're talking about real estate signs, there is no such thing. When you're talking about stump grinding signs, there is no such things. You may have temporary signs You may have portable signs as types of signs, but you can't distinguish among those based on the content at all.
So
period.
all signs are acceptable, is that what you're saying, or not?
No, what I'm saying is that you.
to be a little more brand specific
Well,
then.
I'm trying, that's what you can't do. You can't be brand specific.
Okay, so
and
real
have it-
estate signs, and again,
No, let me finish.
Tim Rand.
Hold
So,
on.
yeah, well,
on.
I'm trying to explain what the
Okay,
bylaw says.
go ahead.
The reason we started over with this, and as I said earlier, I'm not gonna be able to talk very long.
I know that.
The reason I rewrote the bylaw entirely wasn't necessarily to change how any specific thing was regulated necessarily, but to make sure that the overall context and the overall structure of the bylaw lent itself to easily being content neutral and therefore not getting thrown out by the Attorney General because it was unconstitutional, especially based on that Supreme Court ruling that I'd given you copies of. So the structure of this thing passes muster as far as I can tell and as far as town council can tell. The reason it's shaped the way it's shaped is to allow us to regulate signs not based on their content, but based on the type of sign that they are. So you have all of the signs that we would have in the past said were advertising or commercial advertising for businesses or whatever on private property, whether it's an individual business or whether it's a plaza, you have those kinds of signs, but we're regulating them based on the type, whether it's mounted on a building, whether it's freestanding, and then further, whether they can be lighted or not, whether they move or not, how tall they are, how many there are. So those are all legitimate ways to regulate that type of sign, that structural type of sign. Now, you can prohibit some structural types in one zone and allow them in another zone, but you can't get at the sorting out process based on what they say at all. So to think of things in terms of real estate signs or promotional signs or recruiting signs or whatever is out the window. We can't do it. Now, to get to a point, and that's, again, why it's written the way it's written, to get to a point to, in effect, say, okay, there are a whole bunch of things that happen that people, especially in Milford, like to have portable signs about in their yards to talk about, then figure out a structural type that covers as many of those things that otherwise we in the past have referred to based on their message, like whether it's a political sign, whether it's a fundraiser. And don't talk about the content, but get at what's typically the size and type of sign that's used to portray that information. And figure out, do you want to have those in residential zones or not? If you do, how many do you want? How big are they? Where can they be placed? And how long do you want them up?
That
And
I
what's
get.
the mechanism then for putting them up and taking them down or enforcement? But you can't say, oh, well, we're going to regulate real estate signs. Because if you allow that type of temporary sign, you have to allow every other type of temporary sign. And that's the part of our current zoning bylaw that's unconstitutional. Because when you go to the sign prohibition section, it starts out great. It says portable signs are prohibited. And after the semicolon, or after the colon, then it says, except for the following. Well, anything after the colon is unconstitutional. You can't sort them out that way. You either allow temporary signs or you don't. Now, you could say you could have one temporary sign per lot per month in a residential zone, or whatever you decide is appropriate in the size and all that stuff. Or you can say in commercial zones, you can't have any. But whatever it is, it can't deal with the content of the sign, which makes it real difficult, obviously, to deal with this because everybody for 100 years, literally, has been regulating signs, at least to some degree, based on content. So that's why we're trying to sort it out so you don't do that.
Well, I
The
think-
one thing,
I think to Pat's question, or what Pat said, at the end of the day, if we're going to town meeting, effectively, I don't believe there's any chance that we would ever get a bylaw passed that said we were outlawing temporary signs, and that's effectively
Right.
what you're saying. So,
Probably
so
not.
to me, if you're asking where we're trying to go with this, I would believe that we were looking at allowing temporary signs, because all we can say is it's a temporary sign,
Right.
and saying, okay, in various districts, do we allow them in all districts? And if we do, what size do we allow, and how long can they be up? That's really the extent of what we can do in this bylaw. So that's where I think we're trying to go, is to get the answer to that question.
You can do the
right
size,
here.
yeah, there are
Can they
like
be
seven,
lit?
there are like seven
And again,
things you can
fine with-
regulate.
I'm fine with temporary signs, and again, what I'm not fine with is, I'm not fine with getting rid of balloons. I'm not fine with telling people that they can't put lit signs out. Some people like to, put those blow-up, God blessed things around the, they're not for me, but the blow-up things around the holidays, snowman and all that
right.
jazz.
I
Not
don't think-
my cup of,
yeah.
nope.
Well, I think that goes to definition.
That goes to definition.
The problem, Joe, it's like everything else. All it's gonna take is 3 people to get up and say that Santa Claus can't go out, and again, I hate to be that specific, but it's only gonna take a few people that don't understand. We're gonna be right back at the starting, and that's what I'm trying to avoid.
But the definition.
Hold on one other second. The only other question I have is, I would like to see that signs can be erected on your own premises, because there seems to be a lot of signs out there that are not erected on your own premises.
For instance, what kind of signs on your premises?
Well, again,
Like,
drive around and there seems to be, all of a sudden, there seems to be a lot of temporary signs that are advertising H&R Block,
oh, okay.
that are
I see.
advertising
Right.
specific Thai restaurants,
Yep.
driving schools, things, firewood.
That's right.
Those are-
Handmade
those are
signs.
illegal now.
Some of these are
I
handmade
understand,
signs.
But they're still there.
Well, I saw a sign today that said,
Well,
please drive
But
slowly.
I don't
Don't-
know that
don't
you could,
get
I don't
off-
know that you could, again, that goes down to content. If somebody wants to advertise H&R Block on their property, I don't think you can stop them.
But what I'm getting at is that the way the
No,
bylaw
but Joe,
is
and
being.
I don't have a problem.
Wait a minute, wait a minute.
The way the bylaw is being proposed would be, and I was assuming that there would be some allocation of temporary signage for every residential lot in town. So whatever that is, if you want to waste your allocation of temporary signage on the
H&R
tax,
Block, then
on
that's fine.
H&R Block.
I'm fine with
Then
that.
when it comes political season,
can't put 'em in.
you're gonna have to take it down if
with
you
that,
want to
though.
put political signs up.
Well, that was a
That's my
question.
point.
That was-
I don't have a problem with people, allowing people temporary signs. And again, to that point, if they choose to put that type of sign up, so be it. I don't have a problem with that. But again, there seems to be a lot of signs that they're there, advertising, corporate things that really don't belong where they are.
Well,
Yeah.
but once.
And again, hold on one other second, Larry, because it also adds to this problem that there seems to be an enforcement issue or whatever, with various youth groups erecting signs haphazardly. Again, I'm gonna use Tank Field. So my point to this is, if you don't own the property, you're gonna have to go to the owner to get permission. And again, I think
And
things
the
like
water
that,
company owns that.
things like that are a little more achievable and understandable.
But this would allow, this would allow an easier enforcement, once we figure out what that number, what the magic number is in residential zones, for example, for temporary signs, because we can figure out how many, how tall, what size,
Right.
what structural type, all of that stuff, and the duration and how that works. It's all gonna be enforced by the building official, assistant zoning enforcement officer. But to the extent that we can get it into a form that's doesn't distinguish among those types of signs based on content, it doesn't matter what they say. If it's more than what this will say, then it's a violation.
Well, the question is, how many do you get allowed per, is it one a month? Do you think that's excessive? Well, that means you
Well,
could
no,
put
I
a
mean,
sign
you-
up every year.
you need to-
For the entire year.
But we need to, when we get to that point, and I'm not suggesting we try to jump over that hoop right now. I'm just trying to get everybody's head around the idea of content neutrality and why this thing looks the way it looks. A good example is that the very last page has us jumping out of the proposed sign section 3.9 and going back to the use regulation schedule. Our use regulation schedule never has sorted out and never has listed signs. or billboards. But yet the text of the current sign section of the bylaw talks about accessory signs. The assumption on that, from that text, was that signs are not principal permitted uses. They're accessory uses. But yet the place where you would expect to get that clarified doesn't say a thing about it. Well, that's why that last sheet, or the last page, makes that change. So right in the use chart, you'll have that billboards are principal uses and they're prohibited everywhere in town, which is what the current bylaw says. That's why we don't have any billboards.
Right.
The second change would be under accessory uses. It says that signs are accessory uses. They have to follow the regs that we're talking about, and they're permitted everywhere, but only based on what this new section 3.9 is gonna say once we're done amending it. So there were a number of inconsistencies in the way signage was handled in the current bylaw, aside from all of this other content neutrality stuff, which clearly our current bylaw is basically content neutral till it gets to temporary signs, and then it just goes right down the tubes.
I think, you know, what you said, Pat, was effectively the things that we have to try to work out going forward. I don't know. I mean, effectively, you can do a temporary sign and have it, and if you change it, you know, in the first context of how you allow it, and whether you wanna do it or not, you can put a temporary sign up, you're gonna have a time frame that it's up. It's up for 2 months, up for a month and a half, whatever we say. You can put another sign up at the end of that time, or you can put it up while that one's still running if we allow 2 signs. So somebody could have a sign continuously. Do we want that? Do we say if you've had a sign up for this length of time, you're not allowed to put another one up? You can say that. Those are the types of things that we need to put into here and
That's
need to
my
try to figure
point.
out. Well, that's what we need to get to, but
that's
I don't
what-
think
we
we're
haven't
there
gotten
yet.
there yet.
I think
Not even
we're just
close.
trying to,
We're
no,
not-
we're just
no.
trying to get to the format of it, and then we're gonna have to have meetings to have that. One of the
Yeah, we
things
have, we
that,
have to talk, once we get past the prohibition stage, okay, of what's not allowed, then we could probably get to the nuts and bolts,
Right.
but.
Boy, it's a long
Yeah,
time coming.
I mean, we're gonna end up, I can tell you right now, we're going to end up, one of the things that we'll have trouble with to a certain extent is talking about tank field. It's in a residential zone. If we do residential and we say you're, and I'm just throwing out numbers because they're not in here, we're allowing 2 signs in a residential zone and they only can be this big. Well, every sign that's up on tank field
Is
is
much
way bigger
larger.
than that.
They're
Do we,
huge.
so how do we handle that? How do we take those down?
Town doesn't own tank field.
Still residential though.
Well, here's the way the town plays tank field, as far as town has control of tank field,
Yes.
though they don't own it.
They don't own it.
Right.
They don't own it, but
Right.
they have control over it, so they are the issuing authority to allow,
But
to allow
who in
something
the
to go up.
town is control of it?
Right
don't
now,
know.
the selectmen. And that's another issue as to how, you know, are the selectmen gonna then control it when a sign goes up? If we only allow 2 signs, who are the 2 people that are gonna get the signs? Is it a permit that has to go to the selectmen? They have to figure that out. So we have to do it in context with them. It won't be just us, it will be the selectmen as well.
Or
We have to
other-
think about those types of
Or
things as to how
other-
they do.
Other owners of fields.
Yeah.
Who's Pheno Field?
Park
town.
Department.
Park.
Parks
Sorry, so
Department.
the park gets that one, selectmen get nothing, well, you gotta.
Well, they
well,
do or don't, depending on how much they step up. We have to set the parameters of
Exactly.
how big we're gonna let it, how long we're gonna let them stay up. Those types of things are gonna be the parameters in here. How they handle it and control it is gonna be within those boards, because
Yeah, and-
it's
and
not,
the
it doesn't come back to us.
And to that point, the selectmen have already looked at a set of regulations that they would refer to under the current bylaw, which says that you can only put a sign on public property with a permit from the selectmen. So I wrote some regulations. I'm not sure how much of it got approved or whether it was modified slightly. But to the point that can inform this informed those regulations in terms of how they could look at things and make sense out of, you know, exercising their duty between now and the time this gets finally
I mean,
passed.
I think, you know, for the
town
permanent
meeting.
signs, I think we're in pretty good
Pretty
shape.
good,
I
yeah.
mean, I don't know that there's a whole bunch of change in here. We can make changes if we want to, but
There's no sense to it, 'cause
I would
they-
rather go to town meeting and say,
They have the luxury
effectively,
of
the
going to the
permanent
zoning
signs
board and
don't
doing,
change.
and undoing whatever
Well,
we
that's-
change. So
that's-
I wouldn't
that's-
even play with this, to
Yeah.
be perfectly honest, I would not touch it.
Well, to the extent that we have to touch it to make it legal, that's fine. That's the reason why we do it. That's easy to go to them. The issue will become
As far as
how we
dimensional
handle,
sizes,
how we
I'm not
have,
gonna
how we
touch
handle temporary signs, and I think that's the issue before this board in terms of where Larry wants to go, is he wants us to start thinking, okay, how many signs do we think we want to allow in a residential zone? How big do we want to do them? How long do we want to put them up? My feeling is, and I said it to the selectmen at the meeting that we went to, was that there was no way in hell we could ever pass town meeting saying we're not going to allow signs in the residential zone.
Exactly.
It wouldn't fly, so why bother doing it? Personally, I wouldn't mind that, but I know it's not going to
That's not
fly,
gonna
so.
That's why my
And again, I wouldn't
suggested
support that,
language.
so I, yeah.
Well, it's fine, everyone
That's
has their
why
own
my-
opinion.
That's
so.
why this looks the way it looks, as I suggested on the last page again, at the top, 3911, temporary or portable signs in the residential or office residential zones, no more than 4 at any one time on the same zoning lot, can't be more than 6 feet in area, 6 square feet in area per sign, maximum height not exceed 6 feet. Such signs should not be illuminated. Those are the kinds of things that you could regulate. Now, whether you want to say 4 signs or 6 signs or whatever, whether you want to say a duration, those are the things you can regulate. But this was based on basically assuming what a typical real estate sign would be. It's, it's a pretty good sized sign on a post, and it's not the little signs that the stump grinder uses or a political sign would look like. But those could be the model.
Real estate signs are a good sized sign.
Right, but you
Well,
can't,
you may be able to control that by saying, okay, you allow 4 signs, but the maximum square footage on the lot can be any greater than this. So if they put up a real estate sign, they can't put up 4 real estate signs. They just don't want that much sign.
Because you could have
Those are the
those
types of
kinds
things
of
that I think
things
we
that you
need
can
to
regulate.
think about, and when we come in,
Right.
make,
But I don't wanna just regulate the residential.
well, no, you can
No.
do it everywhere.
we can do it everywhere. I mean,
No, no,
to me.
I think we
to me-
need to do it everywhere, that's my point.
Well, commercial we can ban.
Yeah, to me, I don't know why you need it in a commercial. You put up a permanent, that's all you get. All those other
Well,
banners
the
and
only,
all
the only
this.
thing I'm gonna say, Joe, it's like everything else. But you can't be specific, is there's plenty of real estate, commercial real estate that goes for sale or lease or something like that. So to prohibit the signs totally, I don't think is in our best interest. But you can't make that exception.
Is
No,
there a
you can't.
way, like,
I know, that's why this is the
Well,
struggle.
then you may want to, at the most, limit how many there are. That, okay, you can allow that one sign or
I think
whatever.
that's what it is.
Because in general, I mean, most of the people that end up looking for those types of things, I don't think they go by and say, oh, I think I'll buy a manufacturing building. I mean, I think it's, I'm in the market and it's all MLS. So I don't,
You are correct, however, there are from time to time people
Yeah,
that drive by
yeah.
looking to lease, rent, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm fine with having one, but that would be the reason
those
why
are
I
the
would
questions,
want.
those are the conversations we can have going forward.
Real estate
the
signs
side-
don't
the sides of
necessarily have to
these.
be on the
You
property.
see the one down on the.
take
Well,
right over?
They put them on the common.
Babe's been trying
Well,
to
Go ahead,
yeah, babe.
say
All
something.
right, babe, go ahead, go ahead.
Is there a way? Because if you limit the size of the signs to, again, I got no problem with, say, political signs or a normal real estate sign, whatever. The banners and like the stuff on the baseball fields for that. Could you have those a special permit by, something like that?
In-facing ones? The in-facing ones are covered, so if it's inside, like Bottolata or
Yeah, it's
Fino,
covered.
they're not considered
Okay.
signs anymore because they're internal to the thing, is the way
Okay,
Larry
but
wrote
also
it,
like
so
the banners that they put up on the tank field or
About
something.
Main Street.
that becomes a different story. I think.
Like,
Well, the
even like the
problem with-
Bishop's Fund.
The problem with trying to regulate those is the timeframes involved. And the selectmen are having to deal with
Oh, I know,
that.
listen.
With what?
The selectmen are having to deal with that, trying to figure out doing, Lena.
Sorry.
the selectmen are trying to deal with that in the context of trying to cover between now and when this is finally adopted, in terms of the signs at Tank Field. How do you go through an approval process that takes as long as it takes for them to decide to do the sign, put it up, the event occurs and it's over with, and we're still waiting to get a decision? The approval process and the application process takes longer than the events take in terms of the overall duration,
They
so.
can go there and get a one-day liquor license that fast. They can get a sign thing that fast.
Well, but depending upon who's, you'd have to set up a process where
Same day.
somebody else is making the approval, so doing a special permit wouldn't work in that fast turnaround context just because of the legal notice requirements to do it.
Not so much as a special permit, but a special something from the selectmen could approve it.
Well, but depending on that, even that's longer
Can
sometimes than
the-
they see. But
Can we, not that I'm advocating for this, I'm not, I just wanna know. Can we do it such that town property is not part of this, and the selectmen could set up their own regulations for town-owned property?
not entirely. You could still have those kinds of provisions, but it would still have to be content neutral.
Yeah,
So-
well, the content
Yeah.
neutral is fine, but I'm just saying, if, we'll use Tankfield because it's the biggest one, residential zone, and we said you could only put up 2 signs in a residential, and they could only be 6 square feet total.
Right.
Well, 6 square feet is bigger than one of the signs that they
One
put
of the
on there.
si- yeah, exactly.
If we said for town-owned property, it obviously has to be content neutral, that's the selectmen's job, but it's their job to regulate however many signs they would put up on
No,
Tankfield.
no, I don't think you can abdicate
Okay.
you can't have a hole in the regulations for those any more than you can have a hole in the zoning map. It has
You could have
to
a
cover
problem.
the entire town. But that's something that we can look at. One of the things, before I forget, one of the things that I think we would need to address in the definitions,
I'm sorry, Larry.
currently, I was proposing that the definition for signs specifically exclude the following items: that official traffic control devices required, maintained, or installed by federal, state, or local government, or an active rail line, those aren't signs, those are traffic control devices. The house number, your address number isn't a sign. National flags, state or municipal flags aren't signs. Holiday lights and decorations, those aren't signs.
There goes,
Right.
Santa Claus is all set.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was trying to explain earlier, but he wanted to spend 15 minutes saying he didn't.
Larry,
like me.
I said I was going on a rant.
So one of the things I think we need to add is one of the things the selectmen were recently talking about are the memorial square placards for local veterans. Whatever the precise technical name for those things, it'd be like a street sign that has, Main Street, but it says,
so-and-so square.
Catalano Square
Oh, okay.
or what is Maselli Square or whatever. And they honor, typically, I guess, from what I can tell, historically, the town would put those signs up or allow those signs to be placed in a square, an intersection of public streets in the neighborhood roughly
They do.
where the person that is being honored lived. So there are a few that don't follow that, but most of them seem to. But to the extent that those should not be considered signs any more than a traffic control device, I think we would add that.
Can we, and again, this is where we get foolish sometimes, but the cemeteries,
What's with that? What do you mean?
well, again, people have a tendency to do all sorts of things for their beloved. Would they be considered signs, or can we preclude cemeteries? Again, this is where sometimes it gets a little complicated, because
Cemeteries are owned or
Well, they're-
managed
When you're talking
by-
about,
they're normally in they're normally in residential.
you're talking about decorations?
I don't know if you consider certain things decorations, Larry. I don't know what
So when
you'd
you're
call.
saying cemeteries, you're not talking just flowers, you're talking flags near a cemetery?
Well, flags are
and
okay
flowers
anyhow.
are
Flags are-
decorations, so they're
Yeah.
already out.
No, but
So,
I don't hang out at the cemetery all that often, but occasionally,
Sure.
there's a lot of things I should do,
Well,
but
the other thing that.
occasionally people make some,
One of the things that we probably need to realize at the end of the day, it came to me at the last meeting too, when we talked about the balloons, is the enforcement for this is, the town can't actually tell somebody to take a sign down, they have to take an enforcement action through court. So to worry about balloons is probably not even an issue, because by the time you could actually get the enforcement, the balloon is gonna have collapsed. So, I mean, things that are that type of thing, although they may be regulated, the fact is you really can't even regulate them just because of the way the enforcement would have to go in order to do that. So I think we're talking about more semi-permanent to permanent types installations. At the end of the day, because you just can't enforce it otherwise. There's just no way of doing it.
Well, I have no interest in forcing balloons anyhow, but we'll let that one fly.
Well,
I was talking about blimps in terms of
Whatever.
inflatable signs, not kiddies' balloons or your balloons. I don't know how big your balloons are.
Keep it clean.
I mean, but that, I think going forward, that's what we need to think about in terms of what do we think is the appropriate number, the square feet? What do we think is the appropriate number of signs? Do we want to limit them in terms of length? And what is that limit? Knowing that
I would do a couple
effectively, the way we probably would do this, because I can't see any other way of doing it. I don't think John Erickson can allow us to set up a thing that says you have to take a permit out to do a political sign. It's just not gonna happen. It's not gonna pass. So
gotta be
we're gonna
practical.
set this up and say, okay, we allow it for a month and a half, let's say, a temporary sign. What's gonna happen is someone's gonna say, that sign's been up for a month and a half. Call John Erickson and say, I think the sign's been up for a month and a half. Can you ask him to take it down?
Now,
He
he's
goes
gonna
out
put
and
him-
takes a
he's gonna
picture.
put it on the clock for a
He's
month
gonna
and
put
a
it on
half,
it for
so
a
it's a
month and a half.
three-month-
That's the
it's a
only way you're gonna be able to
three-month
do it. Right, it's gonna be a 3-month sign. That's the only way you can do it.
The most foolish thing I seen is once when John Fernandez was running for the primary first. And the regulations in Hopedale and Mendon, you could put them up
Yeah,
for the
put 'em up for-
primary, had to take them down for 20 days, then put them up again.
Right,
That-
I saw
That is
that.
gonna be the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life, so. You're gonna have to take some consideration about the when we do the time.
Well, exactly, and that's why I was suggesting, that's why I was suggesting that a practical way to get at this is to look at what's typically the most number of signs or the typical type of signs that occur most often in town. And political signs in Milford. So if you're talking about timeframes, if you're talking about numbers, if you're talking about placement, all of that stuff, the size, the height, the structural type, think in terms of the kinds of signs that typically get put up for political campaigns. Now, if you do that, that covers everything that I can think of that typically appears other than the big substantial real estate signs that get stuck around. And in fact, many of the real estate signs are as small as some of the political yard signs that go up. So maybe a practical way to do it, I don't know, but a practical way might be to say, well, we'll take that smaller size and figure out times and numbers and durations and how you address that from an enforcement standpoint. And that's the rule of thumb we would put in the bylaw. Not that it would have to only apply or could only apply to political signs. It would apply to every temporary sign in residential zone. So if realtors want to advertise, they use the smaller sign in Milford. That's one way to go at it. But my concern, and the reason I drafted the bylaw the way I did, was so that you could get to that point. But from a practical standpoint, it would seem to me to be the best way to go at it is to say, well, the most signs are political signs, so how are they made? How big are they? What do they usually look like? And use that as the rule of thumb for every other temporary sign. And that would simplify things for us a whole bunch, because just because one company happens to make a sign that's slightly bigger or that's a different material or whatever, and try to regulate everything based on that, which is kind of, the exception and not the rule. Let's go with the average sign that you see. And the majority of the signs are those smaller, what we'd have to call political signs now, but can't in the bylaw.
That's the average side, regardless if they're political or they're advertising.
Right.
Yeah.
For
They're all
driveways,
stump
landscaping, stump grinding.
They're
They're
all
all
that
pretty,
small.
pretty close to that size,
So
if
to
not
me,
identical.
that would be the easiest way to get at it.
Yeah, there's very few that, to your point, that are slightly larger.
Right. And even the real estate signs, a lot of the real estate signs aren't those big hulking signs, they're
Because
smaller.
they're heavy, and they don't want to be, they're bulky.
So that might be a way for us to address it,
Then we
still
can
be
get- then we can
content
start
neutral.
getting rid of the prohibitions.
Well, I think
That's-
that what we
that's how
should do is probably take these 6 pages look them over, and when we come back next time, in 2 weeks, you know, what can
Well, at
we,
least I have a better feel for the direction that we're trying to
Right,
head in, because I
right.
was very unclear, and that's why I had to ask.
Well, and to the extent that anybody has any questions between now and the meeting, just call me or email me, and I'll try and come up with
I like
answers
arguing,
that
I
make
like
sense.
arguing with you in public.
well, there are 6 pages that we have to go over.
Argue at your own risk.
The other thing is that the selectmen were asked at their last meeting that we went to send us any comments. I don't know if any came in last night,
Well,
but there is an expectation that they would have some comments coming back too. And I made it clear that this board would not be in favor of going forward without them signing on effectively.
Correct.
That at the end of the day, we may be the sponsoring, we may be sponsoring with them or whatever, but they needed to buy into it, because going to town meeting and having any one of them.
As an avalanche wasn't gonna
Yeah,
work.
We'll never get this to pass. So if we want it to pass, we all need to be on the same, and the building inspector for that
And
matter.
I think there's an expectation, just in all fairness to the selectmen, that once the board has fleshed it out a little bit more, maybe in another meeting or two, we'll be able to do an updated draft, and that some of
that's
us would
fine.
at least go to a selectmen's meeting and bring them up to speed as to where we are, to keep them in the loop, because it's gonna be kinda hard for them to hit a moving target, that we keep
Yeah.
changing as we evolve the thing. So at some point, you and I, or you and Lena and I can go back to a selectmen's meeting and go over it with them and try and elicit some comments, but it's gonna take, some time. It's just not fair to you guys to try and
I think we have
do
to
that
agree
sooner
before you
rather
go
than-
bring on another board. I think we have to agree
We do,
first.
we do.
No, I don't expect, I don't expect back from them. I expect back, similar comments to what we had of, we think the proper size sign would be this, that, or the other thing, that type of thing. I'm not asking them to give us comments to rewrite the thing. I'm asking them to give their opinion of what they think. That's what I would like, just like this board, I'd like to get everybody's opinion on what they think the number and size would be is appropriate. Because I don't know what the right number is, to be honest, and we all gonna have different opinions, so I think we have to look at it and see where the majority
We
hits.
may have to average it out.
Yeah.
All right.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion paid by Pat to adjourn, second by John. All in favor? Good night, everyone. Have a good week.